Okay, you guys, retirement's supposed to be the dream, right? Nothing to do. You can just like float around aimlessly. But who knew that an empty calendar could actually lead to emptiness? Hey guys, it's your girl Katie, and today we're going to talk about retirement. When I started looking into this, it was because of real life situations where boredom, depression, anxiety, all these things started accompanying all the people around me. So I am in Naples, Florida. They call it heaven's waiting room because they think that everyone is coming here when they're retired, right? You're coming here and then you go to heaven. So that is what people call it. But when I'm walking around and I'm in community with people, I'm getting a lot of the statistics that are actually online that you can check right here. Studies show that retired men are 40% more likely to experience depression than those that keep working in some capacity. Okay. They also say a survey from the National Bureau of Economic Research found that when men who retire without a purpose are more likely to suffer from mental health issues, higher mortality rates, and substance abuse. I thought retirement was supposed to be like the dream. Isn't that what we're all working for? Is to retire and be able to play tennis all day or play golf or go on vacations or just aimlessly roam around? Well, it turns out that that is not what we were created to do. Who knew? So Anthony and I were actually walking to the coffee shop. We do it pretty often, and we run into this couple. It was like after Super Bowl. Everyone's still crying about the Chiefs. Let's not talk about it. So we run into this couple and we can tell that they want to talk to us like for a long time. Like they're just so bored, right? So we just kind of like, we're being nice. We're talking to them. They end up being this great couple. We get into all these conversations and he's like, yeah, we play tennis and we play golf and we just go around and go to coffee shops. We never even get in our car. And I'm like, wow, man, you're living the dream. Kind of like a segue to be like, all right, I got to go work a little bit so that I can be you one day. And he looked at me. It was like he was empty. His eyes went completely empty. And he was like, I'm so bored. He was so bored with his life, like he had no purpose. In the same week, someone reached out to me that hadn't talked to me in about 5 years about how everything has changed now that her husband has retired. He was like this bigwig at a bank. He had his whole identity wrapped around in it. So let's talk about this today. What is going on with people who are retired? So how can retirement be more than playtime? Well, really, it's finding your purpose, right? It's your God-given purpose. We are meant to serve others. So a verse that I want to bring to you guys is Proverbs 19, verse 21. Many are the plans in a person's heart, but it is the Lord's purpose that prevails. So let's look at things as they come up. So let's talk about the first thing, which is identity. So you're going to be transitioning, if you haven't already retired, you're going to be transitioning from a career to your calling. A lot of us aren't in a career right now that really is our purpose. It's not our mission in life, but some people think that it is, right? You're looking at your job like, okay, this is where I get all of my worth. This is where I call myself important. It's where I get my power. It's where I get recognition. Think about your HOA president or Karen on the street, right? Telling you what to do with your garbage can, or you shouldn't be rolling it out at the night before. It should come out the morning of and get it right back. Like these people probably left a career where they were important. They were able to tell people what to do. They had power, they had influence, and now they're sitting in their houses, maybe playing golf, maybe playing tennis, maybe roaming around the street or reading, but they don't have that avenue or that place where they feel like they can lead, where they feel like they're a mentor, where they feel like they can be part of society. We are not meant to be isolated in our houses, just doing whatever we feel like and not having any real reason to wake up in the morning. This is what happens when people feel depressed, right? They start to think, why am I even here? So whatever your plan was, like your retirement plan was, it will not beat the purpose that you're going to find with God. So another verse I wanted to give you is Genesis 2:15. The Lord God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it. That is what we were literally created on the day of creation to do. And God could have said, like, manna came from the sky, right? If you know that God couldn't just give you food. God could have just made it where we didn't even have to work the fields. Food would just appear. But he made it where we have to work. where there's a purpose for us to get up, and it is to feed our families, it's to protect each other, it's to make each other whole by giving them the grace of God and having relationship and community with each other. God created us to do that. So I wanted you to think about this, how to apply this if you're already retired, or if you are nearing retirement or you're not even close. Let's ask ourselves these questions. Number one, if you strip away all the labels, all the rankings, your job title, who are you? Like, seriously, that's a weird question, but let's actually think about it. Who are you without your job or your work? Are you the type of husband that you want to be? Are you the type of wife that you want to be? Are you the type of mom, the type of dad, the type of uncle, aunt? Who are you, and what are you here for if it's not for your job or to make money? Because the thing that's happening is people want to be remembered when they're gone, right? So when people have asked me, they're like, what do you want to be remembered for? They're asking celebrities, what do you want to be remembered for when you're gone? I know that for me, I don't really care if my name is remembered. But if when you are in community with younger people and you have wisdom and you pass that wisdom on to them that make them want to do something, to do the same thing, like put something into action. Like if I'm saying that Jesus is amazing and he can help every single thing in your life, and then somebody hears that and they start doing exactly what I'm doing, and then they have other people follow them, and like all these people start to follow this path of trying to help people bring people into community with Jesus and with the body of Christ, which is each other. That would be the legacy, right? That would be a better legacy than any money that I could leave kids. By the way, leaving your kids a bunch of money, it's like these baby boomers and people who had to work really hard and didn't get anything handed to them, and that's like their claim to fame. They're like, I had to do this and I didn't get anything handed to me and I started with nothing. Okay, that's what made you who you are. And then you're saying that you're working so hard so that you can make it where your kids don't have to do that? Well, what is the point of that? Everyone's making all this money and wanting to give their kids these easy peasy lives. And like, how is that working out for everybody? I know that the kids that I know and the parents I know that are leaving their kids a bunch of money or that don't have to work, it's not going well. Talk about substance abuse, depression, anxiety. If you literally have no thing or nothing or no will to get up or nothing that you actually have to accomplish in a day, it doesn't go well. You end up being depressed. You end up looking for things like substances and things to kind of make you disappear or make you feel like you're alive because you're not truly living your God-designed life, which is with each other in community. So the other thing that comes up is number 2 is, are you making work your idol? So I know that when we were talking about idols in one of the episodes, it's kind of interesting. It's like, what's that thing that you're putting above God or before God? Is it more important to you to work to make money or to seek and serve God? So a lot of people are like, well, okay, that sounds great. What am I going to do? Just quit my job and seek God and see what happens and who's going to feed my family and all that? I'm not asking you to quit life. I am asking, how much importance are you putting on your bank account in this world versus your bank account in your service to the Lord and the people in the church? Because you don't have to join a church to be part of the church. I just want to remind you that we are the body. So you in community with other people is the church. So if you are giving back to people in your community, you will get so much further in life than if you're just trying to bank and put tons of money in your bank account that's just going to sit there until you give it to your kids or charity. It really isn't the same thing as when you impact somebody's physical life through doing life with them and showing them how amazing it can be to be in community with others. What are you finding your worth in? So you might be thinking that it's your bank account or your job title or things like that. But I think if you knew what money was really for, and what I think, I wanted to picture this. Picture a cup that's overflowing. Okay. People say that all the time. They're like, oh, I want my cup to overflow so that I can flow into others. Well, picture that cup overflowing with water, where water's just pouring into it and all this water's falling on the ground. If you don't have some place that you are putting your money or your time or your generosity, it's just going to waste, right? It's just all the extra is just falling to the ground. So I really want you to start thinking of, if you were going to create money and wealth, what kind of impact can you make? Because your cup is overflowing to flow into others. And once you realize that, oh my gosh, Work means so much more when you know where the money came from and where it's supposed to go. So if you don't know that, that's something else we'll talk about in another episode. Watch out for these 3 things when you're idolizing your job over God. Number 1, you feel lost without your title or career. So strip it away. How would you feel if you weren't the vice president, if you weren't the president, if you weren't the CEO, if you weren't the founder, if you weren't whatever you are right now? What would you feel like your life was worth? Number 2, your job dictates your mood and your self-worth. Are you getting home at night and giving your family literally just the leftovers? You're giving yourself to work all day long. Everyone's like, oh my gosh, Katie is so awesome. She's so organized. I love her. She's got this energy. She's just like the best person to be around. And then you get home and your family is like, who? Who's organized? Who's great to be around? That's not how she is here. I mean, who is more important? If this is for you, this is for somebody. What is more important? The way that your colleagues feel about you at work or the way that your family feels around you? So start thinking about what you're bringing home at the end of the day. Number 3, you prioritize work over faith, family, and serving God. This is a hard one. I'm in real estate, and this is really, really hard for Sunday, right? The Sabbath day. It's hard because I'm saying yes to a lot of things that are work related, thinking, well, this is what I'm supposed to do. Like, these are my responsibilities. But sometimes you have to back that up and you have to remember that your family and your faith and seeking and serving God has to come first. It just does. It has to come first. And you have to be able to say no to the no's and yes to your family. Okay. The verse I want you guys to think about this for this Matthew 6:24. No one can serve 2 masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. And this is a sticky one, especially with people trying to build wealth, as they're like, well, I need money to serve God. And I agree with that. Money goes a long, long way for people in need, for the church. Like, they need the money in order to do all the amazing things that they do for people. But the people who are giving into the church are giving generously out of what God gave them. And the difference is, it's the mindset. It's not how much money you have or how much you work. It's where you know that money came from and where you're putting that money. So again, same concept, just repeated, because it's important to realize that if you don't know that God is the provider, then you will start thinking that you're the reason that you have everything that you have. And that's a very scary place to be, because it can be taken in an instant. So I'm just praying that you are looking at where everything's coming from and knowing that God is literally the CEO. So you don't have to worry about being the CEO, because God's your CEO. So number 3, does nothing to do sound amazing? Well, be careful, because Proverbs 16:27 says, idle hands are the devil's workshop. Idle lips are his mouthpiece. I'm going to read that again. Idle hands are the devil's workshop. Idle lips are his mouthpiece. Statistic: almost 1 in 3 retirees say they feel depressed, a rate higher than that of an adult population overall. We were made to serve, you guys. We were not meant to do nothing. Retirement isn't the end either. It's like a new beginning. So I wanted to do this episode to get people thinking of like, okay, what could I start doing? How generous could I start being right now with my time and my energy in church, in charities, in small groups, instead of giving everything you have to your workplace? Psalm 92:14, they will still bear fruit in old age. They will stay fresh and green. This is saying that this doesn't mean that when you're not working that you're not producing good fruit. You can produce fruit and feel like you're accomplished and you're recognized through God and through the things that you do for others, not just for your paycheck or for your salary. Where we could start on this is volunteering at local charities. So this is like some action items that you can do: mentoring the younger generation and participating in mission trips or community outreach programs. And then something I wanted to think about is, if you're retiring, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not going on a mission trip anytime soon. There are tons of ways that you can start helping these mission trips in like either funding or organizing or just making sure that the experience is good overall. You don't have to go on the mission trip to be part of this. So let's prepare. So number 4, let's prepare for our purpose, setting the stage before retirement. To avoid an identity crisis, start knowing whose you are and who you are and what you're here for. And that's when you're going to start getting into your purpose. So One thing you could do is explore your interests. Identify passions outside of your career that can kind of lead you to a community of people where you can serve and help others or mentor kids. This is like great with sports and things like that, where you can get into like a league and start doing something that you love, but also help other people there. Just bring them to Jesus. And then build a community. Engage with groups that focus on service and shared habits. And with this one, you do not need to join a small group. You can start a small group. So that's a big thing I hear is, well, there's no community, there's no group that I want to join. You create it then, because you were made to create. So if your excuse is that there's no great church or there's no great group, create the group and make the room for God to show up wherever you're at. And in that, seek God's guidance. Pray for direction on how to use your gifts in this new awesome season that's coming ahead, so that you don't end up one of these people who is depressed. My favorite verse almost of all time, Jeremiah 29:11. I put it on the back of a trolley in Naples, Florida. It says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." We hope that you're starting to look at retirement as not just an empty calendar, but a full tank that you can take to bring people to Jesus. We'll see you next time. And until then, stay elevated. Hey guys, if you want to see more episodes like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. And we'd love to hear what you think. See you in the comments. And until then, stay elevated.